it?
Yeah, go.
Okay. Welcome to an overview of the election simulation. The election simulation that takes place in Townsend Harris is meant to mimic the real-life campaigns and results that, actually not results because this year was very sad. However, it's meant to mimic the real-life candidates, and each student is selected. You can volunteer or you can ask your teacher to pick you in order to show off the policies, and along with your team, you should have fundraisers, you should have social media campaigns, you should also prepare for the debate that's going to be in front of the whole school, and you're ultimately trying to make sure that the student body can pick you as the best candidate.
My name's Anna, and my roles from the campaign were the spokesperson and the spouse. So, as a spokesperson, my responsibilities were to essentially fill in for Tristan, or in this case Kamala Harris, whenever she was absent. So the spokesperson needs to attend classroom visits or any radio shows or any interviews, but thankfully during our campaign Tristan was only absent during time we had classroom visits scheduled, so I just had to present those slideshows on behalf of her, which was fairly easy because a part of the campaign, everyone needs to be up to date with all the current events in regards to your candidate, so that wasn't too bad of a role to fill. And additionally, I was also her spouse, Doug Emhoff, which is the second gentleman of the United States. And Doug was a great character to play. It's very fun because you don't have to necessarily be out in the open, you're just a side character just to support and make sure your wife looks good. So I just had to dress up for as much as I can. Especially for formal events like the kickoff rally or the certain middle school debates or the actual debate at our school. And even though it probably would have been best for me to dress up during more classroom visits, I did so on times where it was more important, so more crucial classes that we felt were more necessary.
What is your name?
My name is Tristan Hall.
What was your role?
So my role during the election simulation was being the face, the candidate. I portrayed Kamala Harris, which means that I had to learn some of her mannerisms. I had to memorize her policies. When you do classroom visits, I was the one presenting the slideshows. When I have a talk show interview, like the TV show or the radio show, I was the one who was the face. I was the figure who had to be put on camera multiple times during the day. I also had to be ready for any spontaneous interviews from the numerous journalism outlets during the election simulation. I also had a major part in the debate because I was the one on stage. You don't get to bring your team with you, but throughout the election sim, as long as you have a supportive and dedicated team, then you can alleviate a lot of the stress, because I thought it would be a lot of work going into it, but it pays off because you also basically start to feel like a celebrity almost when a lot of people can recognize you and basically align you with this figure that you're portraying. And I had a lot of fun playing Kamala Harris, especially as a Black student portraying one of the Black female candidate. So it was really nice, and it was a historical moment, and I got to take place in it. And then all the posters that take place in election sim obviously has your face on it. So it was really being like the image of Kamala Harris and the image of the candidate I was playing. And a lot of the work behind the scenes, also like at fundraisers, making a public appearance, a lot of it was making sure to upkeep the presence, because the social presence on social media, along with the in real life presence across classrooms and hallways, you had to keep it up. And that was a major part of my role because I had to basically be in character for a majority of the time.
My name is Denise, and as a member of the social media team and the Harris campaign social policy analyst, I was responsible for researching Kamala Harris's stances and policies on weekly topics and social issues, including education, healthcare, and housing. I used the research to help make weekly Instagram posts informing students about the topics of the week. Along with creating the weekly Instagram posts, I also helped create and film content that were posted to our other social medias like TikToks or other ads for the radio show or the television show. I helped run our fundraiser, engaging with students, and attended all the classroom visits, usually either filming or holding props.
As media coordinator, I was responsible for creating and contributing to the weekly posts, weekly radio show ads, and TV show ads, just like this one.
The country needs me. I've come out of hiding to save all American citizens. Remember, vote Harris for Harris rights on election day.
I was also in charge of organizing the layout of the Instagram, following Townsend Harris students, and making sure we posted engaging content. We did this by polling or asking questions in our weekly posts. Alongside being media coordinator, I was also director of communications. Like the name suggests, I was in charge of communicating well with my group members to make sure they knew what their responsibilities were. For example, when we had classroom visits, I had to make sure each person knew what they were doing. So for example, a filmer, the person controlling the slides, and who was giving out candy.
What's your name and role?
My name is Zia Kamiger, and I did the fundraising aspect of the campaign, and I created newspaper.
So what were your responsibilities of those roles?
So as the fundraising manager or finance manager, I compiled all of our finances into a spreadsheet, kept contact with the FEC, and helped maintain our fundraisers, as well as created our weekly newspaper ads.
What's your name and role?
My name is Lynn, and I'm in charge as the campaign manager and the fiscal policy analyst of this campaign. So as the campaign manager, my main role is to delegate tasks to members of the campaign team, as well as to update them on what our goals are for the week and for the day, so that I can make sure that everyone stays on track. In addition, I communicate closely with the candidate to make sure that they are communicating what they need to the student body, so that we can make this election simulation a success. As fiscal policy analyst, I was in charge of research and weekly classroom slides for the entirety of the 5-week election sim. I researched our candidates' policies, and our candidate is Kamala Harris, if you guys don't know. So I put in the research for the candidates' policies, such as her economic policies and issues such as immigration, gun control, LGBTQ rights, and so on. And I was in charge of creating these slides to inform you guys, Harrisites, about these candidates' policies, so that you can best make your choice for the people you're voting for in elections.
Hi, my name is Farah Rahimzada, and I was the appointment secretary and on part of the social media team for this year's Kamala Harris campaign. For the appointment secretary role, I was in charge of outreaching to teachers, asking them to invite us, going around the building and signing up our campaign on sign-up sheets, as well as going in person to talk to teachers to ask them to invite us. On top of that, I added all of our scheduled visits to an organized document and made sure that everyone knew where to go at what time, and to make sure that everyone was accompanying our candidate so she wasn't alone. As for the social media role, I ended up steering away from this role as there were already a lot of people working on social media. Therefore, I decided to dedicate my time towards outreach. Apart from these roles, I also recorded for the Q&A sessions our candidate had, as well as the entirety of her presentations.
What's your name and what did you do for this campaign?
My name is Meshva Patel, and I was the poster. And as the poster, I posted polls.
I posted polls
on social media to gain knowledge on what the student body felt about the campaign and the election and stuff. And I contributed to the weekly social media posts.
Okay, great. Thank you. What's your name and role?
My name is Leona. I was Field Operations Director. Basically, what I did was I engaged with students from all grade levels, promoting voter registration and voting blue, as well as helped with the weekly polls and basically conducted research on weekly topics as well.
Throughout the campaigning process, there are many actions that have to be taken, one of them being hosting a fundraiser. For our fundraiser, we had a bake sale, and this was very important as we were able to raise 1,400 SimBucks to then fund our advertisements. Not only that, but we focused on class visit outreach so that we can target the student body in person. as well as social media outreach by staying up to date with trends so that it would stay relevant to the student body. We also created class visit merch so that we could hand them out at the end of our visits and students could have a topic of conversation after we left. We also endorsed other candidates as well as the Hawks Gazette. We then created an Amazon gift card giveaway so that students would know about our campaign and want to contribute more, as well as post posters around the school building so students knew about our candidate and our campaign.
As one of the first election sim bake sales and the first presidential candidate fundraiser, we were able to raise 1,400 sim books. Our bake sale offered a variety of different foods, which was able to attract the student body. We were able to use the sim bucks we raised to pay for ads as well as putting up posters around the school.
Hello guys, today to discuss our greatest group frustration, I think overall we would come to the group consensus that the middle school debate was the biggest frustration. This was the biggest frustration in the sense that it was the only time that we received such negative feedback, because throughout our campaign we received consistent positive feedback with the occasional controversial questions that Tristan handled very well during classroom visits. However, during the middle school debate, it was the only time where we genuinely received such negative feedback, and it was very hard to see upon as Tristan's husband on the stage. Like, I was on the stage, so I can only imagine what it felt like for Tristan herself, because it was these kids and these middle schoolers were yelling at her and sort of calling her names. Not like and they weren't showing the level of respect that you would think that middle schoolers would give, especially during more of a formal setting. And these kids knew that this was a sort of a simulation, yet they still really played into it, which this also has to do with the Trump side and his antics. So we don't really have anyone to blame. We don't really blame anyone in this situation. It was just very frustrating to deal with, but Tristan handled it very well, as she did with all negative feedback throughout the entirety of the campaign. And she stayed true to her character, which is one of the most important things that you must do with your candidate, is portray them in a way that is accurate, even if it doesn't align with your political views. So thankfully, Kamala is someone that we supported in real life, so it was easier for us to be more engaged, and we wanted to learn about her policies and educate the Townsend community about it. However, if your political views don't align necessarily with your candidate's view, you just have to remember that this is a simulation, and that there's going to be moments where other people are not going to like it, like how middle schoolers did not like what we were saying at the middle school debate. But you just have to stay true to yourself, because ultimately your performance is graded on how you portray the character. And even though the results play a role, it's more, in the end, if you are educating people and if you are letting people know about the reality of the world, the political system in our world, then you are doing a good job.
Participating in the Townsend-Harris election simulation has informed my views on American politics, as it has increased my knowledge and understanding of the government. Students were able to gain insight into the inner workings of American elections, such as the voting process and campaigning. Specifically, being in the Harris campaign team, it helped us learn about the policies and research required to shape the campaign. Financially speaking, interacting with the voters themselves in school and using a simple gesture such as SimBucks can alter the results, which can relate to the real world, such as when Elon Musk paid voters $1 million a day to vote. Additionally, the fundraisers were an essential aspect of informing views on American politics, because election turnouts were widely reflected through the money each campaign receives, allowing for giveaways. For example, Tim Walz's free bake sale had reached out to many voters due to the requirement that customers had to post a story with him on social media, broadening their campaign's outreach. Additionally, addressing political concerns had to be beyond the one-dimensional scope, as our team had to make sure that our policies addressed multiple concerns at once. The classroom visit information was properly researched before going in, and we learned about the new policies or existing programs that both the candidates supported or put in place. Some of this information we may have not known about prior to the Townsend-Harris election simulation.
So advice that I have for future participants so that they can win like us would be, one, make sure you communicate with your group members because communication is the most important thing. Two would be to try and spend as many Simlooks as you can because the campaign is only 5 weeks and it's important that you put as much money into resources as you can. Three would be to keep on top of all your work because deadlines come by really fast. So
during Townsend Harris's electoral process, what we did basically was underclassmen, freshmen and sophomores, had more voting power compared to the upper students, which were seniors and juniors. This was specifically made to integrate freshmen because seniors would have to go out of their way to court the freshmen and basically involve them in the election simulation. This was made to mirror the real-life elections because we do use a process called the Electoral College. The Electoral College is basically a system used during the presidential elections where each state has a set number of electors, and these electoral votes then count towards the presidential election. The candidate who wins the majority of the electoral votes wins the election, regardless of the popular vote, which varies in some states. This system can be seen as unfair, as it does give smaller states or with less populations more of a weighted vote compared to those in big cities. However, there's no denying that there could be improvements made on voter engagement and voter registration. There's many ways to improve it, including universal voter registration, which would basically mean anytime you go to a government agency like the DMV, by signing up there, you would automatically be registered to vote. We could do this through early voting, mail-in ballots, as well as same-day registration. This could provide more flexibility to people who do want to participate but may not be able to due to time, travel, work, or health constraints. Going back to the Electoral College, I believe implementing a more popular vote system would allow for fairness. In a system based on popular vote, every citizen would carry the same weight in their vote power. This would decrease the influence of swing states, as well as really reflect what the majority of people want for their country. Lastly, I do want to talk about increasing transparency in campaign finances. By requiring campaigns and political action committees to disclose their donors and expenditures, voters can understand the financial influence behind their candidates and their platforms. This ensures the elections are not swayed by hidden or disproportionate interests. Together, these reforms would create a more transparent, equitable, and accessible electoral system, which would encourage broader participation and uphold the public's trust in our democracy.
Okay, so for our group dynamics, I would consider the way our group worked well together. The way our group worked together was very well, as you can see with the results of the election itself. It was very successful in the sense that we won with 360 something votes to 160 something votes. And the reason why we work so efficiently well together is because if you can see, let's do a little analysis, shall we? Give me a sec. Each of these hair ties represent the different people in our group. Me, Denise, Tristan, Meshva, Aurelia, so on and so on, you know? So we were all introduced to each other. You know, we all grouped up together and we all knew what we essentially wanted to do, and we were given roles, and we decided, like, in the beginning, let's stick to our roles, and if something works best for us, if we collaborate with each other, and if that ends up working better for us, then we're going to do that. So originally, we all had our own roles, we all stuck to it, but together, as time went on, and as deadlines kept on creeping on, and also, you guys are going to be seniors. senior year is quite difficult, especially the fall semester. College applications, homework, exams, Queen's College courses. There's a lot to keep up with, including the simulation. So sometimes sticking to your individual role can be a bit overwhelming if you have a more demanding tasks, like being the candidate. However, that's the reason why you are a campaign team. Emphasis on the team. Together, all these little hair ties become one, representing the Kamala campaign. So essentially, we all began to work together, collaborating ideas, deciding what is the best approach to post media, coming up with content ideas, and I think that was the best thing because Miss Levi gives her 10-minute instruction in the beginning of the band, and then after that, we all discuss the things that she told us to do for that day, but we also discuss what our individual plans are, because the way you're going to get votes is by sort of being true to the candidate, but also being true to yourself, showing a little creativity, showing reflecting what is currently trending online. So for example, this is probably mentioned already, but we did trends like the diva trend, the dress to impress trend, and all these other trends that were circulating on TikTok, and we made sure to keep updated with that. And the reason, and everyone has their own different feeds online, and every day we would collaborate, come up with new ideas, and sometimes, for example, I'd step in because Lynn was the campaign manager. She would instruct us what to do, but sometimes I'd step in, and I'd also I would emphasize once again to the group what to do, because sometimes everyone gets a bit sidetracked. So just to reiterate her words, I make sure to be the voice of that at times when it became a bit difficult to hear each other or understand each other, especially like in a noisy classroom or whatnot. So overall, our group dynamic was very well together. We all listened to each other. We all helped each other out, especially if we knew that the other had something up coming up. And if let's say we needed like an Instagram post coming up, we'd be like, oh, who can do it? If you were free that day during that band, if you weren't doing another task, you would volunteer yourself, or Lynn or I or Tristan or anyone in the group would just assign each other, because this is not someone is in charge of everyone. It's a matter of everyone working together and how to efficiently and effectively collaborate ideas. So that's what we did throughout the entirety of the campaign. You know, at times there were instances where we could have communicated better. For example, just like being more on top of certain deadlines, especially when it comes to the radio show and submitting our TV ads and whatnot, things like that. That could have been done more efficiently. But with the time that we had and what we did so far, we're very proud of the production of our work, because ultimately it led to our success. And I think that the collaboration and showing support, being supportive of each other and each other's work, and providing like feedback and criticism to each other, which happened a lot, which became a bit frustrating at times, but it ultimately made our work better. All of this led to the final product of the Kamala campaign. And to like elaborate a bit more about the criticisms that we had, like we faced, basically like there's this like there was like a couple instances where like, well, we would, in the beginning of the campaign especially, it was very new for Tristan to give presentations, especially as a candidate, and that's going to be something very foreign for the candidate. So as a team, it's our job to make sure that she is saying the right information, and also we give her the right feedback so she can improve herself. So that's what we did. After the first couple presentations, she got the swing of it, and we didn't really need to give that more critical feedback. But after every classroom visit, we'd be like, oh, nice job on that, make sure to say that, do that, do this, do that, and that's the way that we worked. And ultimately, Tristan, we all listened to each other, we respected each other's feedback, and we listened to it, we took it in, and we did it. And that's what worked. As we were just communicating with each other, we had a big group chat on iMessages. This group chat could honestly be wherever you guys are more comfortable texting, and that group chat was where we talked about everything and everything that needed to be done and everything that couldn't be done. And yeah. And that was our group dynamic of the Kamala campaign with me, Meshva, Denise, Tristan, Aurelia, Leona, Lynn, Farah. I think that's everyone. All right.
Being engaged in the political process is an informative experience with many major takeaways. Gaining information on both political parties and forming your own views and opinions can be beneficial. The debates, fundraisers, classroom visits, posters, social media polls, and so much more all contributed to a successful campaign. And remember, every vote counts. So when you get the chance, whether it be in the Townsend Harris election simulation or in real life when you turn 18, make sure your voice is heard.
To conclude, that was our video on how to run a successful campaign like ours, the Kamala Harris team. Overall, I think communication and collaborating with your group members is the most important part. If you're not communicating, nothing is gonna go well. You need to make sure everyone has a part, because even if you think it's not important, it actually is very important. So yeah.